त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तिसुदेशिकेन्द्रं द्वैपायनं सूत्रकृतं मुनीन्द्रं श्रीशङ्करं भाष्यकृतं यतीन्द्रं मद्देशिकञ्चापि नमामि विद्यै। ओम नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्यासम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहित प्रज्ञानगणः प्रत्यगर्तो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। Pranams everyone. So in the introduction to Vedanta series, we initially saw what are the human goals. Human goals can be classified into four: Artha, Kama, Dharma and Moksha. And to pursue these goals, to attain these goals, Shastras help us. Shastras tell us how to achieve these goals. And we saw what are the 6 layers of Shastras then. After which we saw that the Shastras have also given us an infrastructure for us to pursue these goals. We saw them as Varna and Ashrama Dharma. When we Varna and Ashrama Dharma, Varna is a social setup, Ashrama is an individual setup. And we also saw there is something called a Samanya Dharma and Vishesha Dharma. Each Varna has got its own dharma, each ashrama has got its own dharma. Everybody has got multiple Vishesha Dharma depending on the name, depending on the role, place and time. And we saw that as part of this ultimate goal, which is to reach the ultimate goal, moksha, there are intermediary goals that we have to achieve to be able to go to the final goal. And the ashrama system is defined in such a way that in the brahmana, in the brahmacharya ashrama, we understand what the goals are and how to attain these goals. And then in the grihastha ashrama, you pick on the first intermediate goal, achieve it, and then as part of vanaprastha you pick on the second one and achieve it, and as part of sannyasa ashrama you achieve the final goal of moksha. And each of these ashramas has a predominant sadhana for each individual. And the predominant sadhana for grihastha ashrama, we saw it to be karma yoga. Karma yoga, we saw that karma yoga is action which is being converted into a yoga, into a sadhana. Karma means action. Action which is being converted to a sadhana. And we saw that karma by itself karma is action, and action can be classified into 3: Uttama karma, Madhyama karma and Adhama karma. Uttama karma is where we are doing paropakaram, where we are helping others without taking much in return. That is called as Uttama karma. And we saw that the Uttama karma can also be called as Nishkama karma. And Nishkama karma, and the Uttama paropakaram can be classified into 5 Panchamaha Yajnas. The Panchamaha Yajnas are mandatory karmas that a grihastha has to do on a daily basis. And these are Deva Yajna, Pitru Yajna, Brahma Yajna, Manushya Yajna and Bhuta Yajna. Deva Yajna is prayers that we offer to Ishvara, Bhagavan. Then you have Pitru Yajna, the responsibilities that an individual has towards the parents and their parents-in-laws when they are alive and after their death. And then Brahma Yajna is the prayers or offerings that we give to the rishis. And there is basically scriptural study and taking it to the next generation. Fourth is Manushya Yajna, where we actually help other human beings. And finally, Bhuta Yajna is where we actually take care of the environment around us. We worship the trees, we worship the rivers, we offer food to crows, we offer food to elephants, ants, cows, all those things. So this is the responsibility of, or a duty of a grihastha. So a grihastha, in the grihastha ashrama, every individual is supposed to take care of the whole creation in total. And that's why that Vaidika here, a Vedic citizen, a citizen who follows this Vedic way of life is known as a Vaidika. He is a universal citizen. And in Sandhya Vandana, when you see, it is not just limited to what are the things in this world. We also offer prayers. We also invoke the planets and other celestial objects as well. We say Adityam Tarpayami, Somam Tarpayami, Angarakam Tarpayami. We invoke the other celestial objects also. So this grand awareness that I have and I should contribute is called as Panchamaha Yajna. Karma Yoga is nothing but a life of contribution. So we saw it is also called as Nishkama Karma, Satvika Karma, Uttama Karma, Paraupakara Karma. Now then this is the first karma which is the Uttama Karma, which is the superior karmas. Then we'll look at Madhyama Karma, middle actions. Second set of karmas, these are also called, there we called as Nishkama Karmas, the Satvika Karmas. Now we will call them as Sakama Karmas or Rajasa Karmas. Sakama Karmas means selfish actions. Nishkama Karma means selfless actions. Sakama Karma is selfish actions. So it is also called as Para Udasana Karmani. Udasana Karmani means it doesn't, I don't give any problem to others. At the same time, I don't do any help to others. So where basically I ignore the other person and I am indifferent about their existence, is these set of karmas are called as Madhyama Karmas or Sakama Karmas. I am not concerned whether they get impacted or not, whether they get positively impacted or negatively impacted. My intention is not to hurt them. But if I do something and they get hurt, I don't bother about it. That is called as selfish actions, Sakama Karmas. Generally, we do this. In fact, most of our actions are in this category only. We do it for our own self because we desire and therefore we do it. So and this is primarily for the material well-being I do. I do it for either gaining name, fame, or some amount of power position within the organization or within my group, or I want to earn wealth, or I want to get some money, I want to get some good name, which is also comes under name, fame. So these are all these are also called as Kamya Karmas. So I have said Sakama Karma. Sorry, I get an echo. Sakama Karma or Paraudasana Karma, Rajasa Karma, also called as Kamya Karmas. And these kamya karmas can be ritualistic karmas or non-ritualistic karmas also. All of them come under madhyama karmas. Then there are certain type of karmas which are called as prayashchitta karmas. Prayashchitta karmas are karmas where, as I said, madhyama karmas are anything that I do today. I go to a restaurant, I want to eat good food. It is definitely not helping anybody. It is for my own desire I am doing it. So it is sakama karma. It is a selfish action. Or I go to listen to some good music. It is sakama karma because I want to listen. And suppose there are also times when I feel that my life is not going well, and therefore I consult an astrologer, and the astrologer asks me to do certain things to this temple, that temple, or feed some people, or actually give some donation to some place, or he asks me to undergo some fast. All those things, I might be outwardly it might be looking as if I am helping somebody by giving some donation, or actually donating it to a temple, or feeding some people. But these are all called as prayashchitta karmas. And therefore, prayashchitta karmas, because it is done for a selfish motive, these also come under sakama karmas. They are not considered to be nishkama karmas or uttama karmas. So outwardly I might look as if I am actually donating it to a temple, I might be feeding some people, I might be helping out somebody, I might be doing some service to a temple, but I am doing it because out of anxiety and fear of the pain and sorrow that I might get because of what my horoscope says. And therefore they are also called as madhyama karmas or sakama karmas. So this is the second set of karmas. Then there is the last one, adama karmas. Adama karmani are the worst actions. These are also called as tamasa karmas. The first one is satvika karma, the second one is rajasa karma, the final one is tamasa karma. These are prohibited actions, destructive actions. Here I am actually focusing on not benefit for myself, but to create problem for others. Also called as nishiddha karmas, prohibited actions, corrupted actions. Also called as para apakara karmani. Whether I benefit or not, I might benefit, I may not benefit also. It doesn't matter. As long as it is harmful to others, it is called as nishiddha karmas. And these nishiddha karmas do not help me to grow spiritually. The sattvika karmas allow me to grow spiritually. The rajasa karma, there could be a spiritual stagnation, and if we continue to do rajasa karma for too long, it will drag us down also. Because ultimately when the desire gets overpowering, then the rajasa karma slowly turn towards tamasa karmas. We feel that somebody is actually not, we have a desire, and therefore to get on the desire we do some action, and as a result I see that when that action has to be when I am looking for the results from that action, I find somebody is actually creating some hindrance, or I feel that they are a hindrance. Then I start to do certain actions that are harmful to them, because I want to achieve that what I want to achieve, and therefore I might tend to go into the tamasic actions. So these nishiddha karmas are all kinds of illegal, immoral, inconsiderate actions. All are considered to be tamasa karmas. So the first one leads to spiritual elevation, second one leads to spiritual stagnation, and the third one will lead to spiritual retrogression. Retrogression is bringing you down. So these are the three types of karmanis that are introduced by our scriptures. And the scriptures point out that karma yogi, a person who feels that he wants to do karma yoga, or a person who is pursuing, an individual who is pursuing karma yoga, is to change the proportion in such a way that the uttama karmanis are dominant in their lives. The madhyama karmas are less dominant. There cannot be total zero of madhyama karmas. Madhyama karmas cannot be totally zero, but it has to be less dominant. And the adama karmas are to be made zero. So the scriptures point out that even if some inevitable adama karmas are there because of unavoidable situations, like for example, while sweeping the floor using broom, or when walking on the roads or walking inside the house, we might kill some insects. These are also considered to be papas, minor papas. Those can be neutralized by doing the Panchamaha. So thus the Uttama karmas or the Panchamaha help in two ways. One is they contribute to our spiritual growth. They also neutralize the papam that is brought out of this inevitable. It is also called suna. Suna means these minor papams where we are killing some insects not out of choice but accidentally. So those are the uttama karmas. So the sakama karmas or the uttama karmas both of them help us to get if we are doing it for, if somebody gets benefited out of it, we get punya. The sakama karmas, if somebody gets benefited out of it, it gets some punya out of it. Suppose if I do something if I do a prayer in which I ask for, I do it with the motive of actually getting some artha or kama, which is basically some name, fame, power, position, wealth, or some enjoyment that I want to have. I want to have a house. I want to get my daughter married. I want to get a promotion in my life. I want to get bonus. I want to get some windfall. Those are also, I might be doing, supposedly outwardly it might be looking as if I am doing deva yajna. But because the motive behind it is for selfish purpose, it is called as sakama karma. The motive is what decides in all the cases, not the action alone. Action, of course, decides, but it is not just the action alone which will decide whether it is sakama or nishkama, whether it is uttama or madhyama. And therefore, depending on whether it is uttama or madhyama, the result of the actions will also change. When I do it with a selfless motive, I get some punya which will give me chitta shuddhi, which will elevate me, which will allow me to progress spiritually. Whereas when I do a sakama karma, when I do the same, I might be outwardly looking to see as if I am doing Panchamaha Yajnas. But if my motive is to actually for selfish benefit, then it might give me punya, no doubt, but it will not elevate me spiritually. It might give me that punya will allow me to get some artha or kama. I might get out of something, money, wealth, name, fame, position and all, but it will not help me progress spiritually. And why Chitta Shuddhi is important? I already said, Chitta Shuddhi means clean mind, pure mind. Raga Dvesha Rahita Manaha, where I don't have any attractions, addictions or aversions. So, in Kenopanishad, in Shankara Bhashyam, Adi Shankara gives in a Bhashyam, he says, for every action, there are 3 gatis or 3 outcomes of actions as prescribed in Vedas. He says, Akarane Papam, when I don't do what I am supposed to do, I get Papa. Sakamyate Karane Punyam, if I do these actions out of selfish reasons, as in I do good things but for selfish reasons, then I get some punyam. Nishkamyate karane chitta shuddhihi. So only when I do it without any selfish motive, I will get chitta shuddhi. Now I just want to spend some time to understand about actions or discuss about actions. Karma means actions. And this karma will be as I said, karma has got multiple things. We have already seen karma is action also. Karma, we also say karma theory. All this karma means the result of the actions is also called karma at times. This karma is very prominently used and it's a very important concept in our scriptures. And we have seen that this is not the first janma for us. This may not be the last janma for us also. So which means I have been born before, I might be born afterwards also. Question is, what makes me get born what makes me get born again and again? Why do I have to be born again and again? And the answer the scripture says, it is because of karma. Because the karma binds the person. Karmana badhyate jantuhu. Karma binds a person. And because karma binds a person, and because of karma a person incurs papa or punya, and because there is a papa or punya, he will have to be born again. He or she or it will have to be born again. Because just because I am a male in this janma doesn't mean that I have been male all throughout. It doesn't mean that I will be born again as a male. I would have had many janmas of female. I might have another few janmas or more janmas of female also. So when people talk, they should understand that whenever they talk about, why are the females, we are treated badly. Why are the females treated badly? Please do understand, you are only female for this janma. You might have been a male in previous janma. You could be a male in further future janmas also. And it is not necessary that we are going to get human birth also in the next janmas. So that is also another, we'll leave it for another discussion. Now, to enjoy this, as I said, karma creates papa or punya. As a result of this papa or punya, the person will have to take a body and enjoy or experience the outcome of papa or punya. And therefore, as and when we do action, every action creates a papa or punya, and that result of that action, which is papa or punya, will actually make me, or will be in a bank which I will have to actually use up. And when I have to use up means I will have to take another life, or within the same life I will have to experience the outcome of the papa or punya. And we say that the karma binds a person. That is what we say. Karma binds a person. How? As I said, any action will result in a papa or punya. Nobody can escape that. Nobody can escape a papa or punya. It will be tagged to your jiva. Your jivatma will be tagged with that papa or punya. You will not be able to transfer that. And no action is excluded. Every action that we do will have a resulting papa or punya. So we will keep accumulating this papa or punya. And it is impossible that I will be able to exhaust them in the same life. Punya, when I actually do punya, it results in good outcome. Papa results in bad outcome. So to enjoy the result of papa or punya, because I will not be able to exhaust that outcomes in this life, a new body is given to me. With this new body, we will be having another life. That's why we say punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. So I cannot avoid doing actions, and as long as I do actions, it is going to result in papa or punya, and because it will result in papa or punya, I will have to take another life to exhaust that, and when I take another body to exhaust it, I am going to accumulate even more karmas, even more papa and punya, and therefore there doesn't seem to be anywhere I can actually exhaust totally. And only when I am able to exhaust totally, or when I am able to, one way of getting moksha is when I am able to exhaust all karmas. But exhaustion is impossible. So how do I come out of this cycle without exhausting this karmas? So that is why Shastra says, do karma as karma yoga. When we do karma as karma, which is when I do actions for selfish reasons, I will incur papa and punya, and which I will have to be only exhausted through by another body, taking another body. Whereas if I do karma as karma yoga, which is if I convert my selfish actions to selfless actions, then it will be converted into chitta shuddhi, which means there will be no papa or punya incurred, and that chitta shuddhi will help me to progress spiritually. And through that chitta shuddhi, I will be able to get that jnana, and through jnana I will be able to get liberated. Karma yoga will give me chitta shuddhi. By chitta shuddhi alone, I will not be liberated. But through chitta shuddhi, I will get qualified to receive this jnana. And through jnana, I will be able to get liberated. So karma, which is basically the cause for binding me into this cycle of birth and death, using the same karma, if I am able to do it as yoga, karma yoga, I will be able to come out of it. The analogy that we use is, if you want to remove a thorn from our feet, then we'll have to use another thorn. So the same karma alone is being utilized as karma yoga to be able to come out of this cycle. And Adi Shankara, he gives an example. He doesn't give the example of thorn, he gives the example of curd. He said curd is seen as a food that will give health problems. In Ayurveda, if we go to an Ayurvedic doctor, they will say avoid curd. Curd is supposed to be nishiddha. Nobody should take curd. Curd is unhealthy. So he says curd is unhealthy in Ayurveda. But if the same curd, if it is mixed with sugar, beaten, the fat is removed and then taken, it becomes healthy food. So similarly, this karma will bind us, but the same karma, if it is done as yoga, it will help us progress spiritually. And what is the difference between karma and karma yoga? The yoga portion, which is the attitude. The same action that I do, if I change the attitude towards that action, I will be able to convert that karma into karma yoga. So it is a change in the attitude. Outwardly, there is no change in the action at all. But if I am able to change the attitude, I will be able to get Chitta Shuddhi. So the bhavana, the attitude that we have on karma, will help us to convert that binding karma into non-binding karmas. So that is a small discussion that I wanted to have on karma and karma yoga. How can we do karma yoga? Now, how do I differentiate between karma and karma yoga? Karma and karma yoga can be differentiated in 3 ways. In the sense, if I do an action normally, the first difference I would say is, I would put the topic as failure. See, when I do an action, karma, it may not always result in a success. I am trying to achieve something in my life. I write for an exam. I sit for an exam. The goal for me is I have to get through that exam. Now, for whatever reason, sometimes it is not in our hands, I may not be able to get it. Or I am looking for a job, I am going for an interview and I think I am going to get it. For some reason I am not able to get it. Or if I am actually trying out something in my kitchen, I want to prepare some nice food. I have done everything best I thought I could, but still it hasn't turned out well. So karma does not always result in success. Even the things that are mentioned in the Vedas, for example, there is an yagam called Kariri Yagam, which when we actually do, we are bound to get rain. But some people do Kariri Yagam and still they are not able to get rain, because there is always this samashti prarabdha of the people around that can actually make the yagam a failure. Similarly, there is something called Putra Kameshti Yagam. People who do not have kids may do this Putra Kameshti Yagam. It says, Veda says, if you do Putra Kameshti Yagam, you will get kids. But it may not always result. Why it will not result, we will see it later. I will also explain later why it may not always result. Or, for example, I am feeling ill, I take medicines. I think these medicines should work because it has worked for somebody else, but it doesn't work for me. Or it has worked for me a few days back, now it is not working. A few days later it might work. So some medicines work, some medicines don't work, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So every action that I do does not always result in success. So Vedas also, when they prescribe certain yagams or homas or says that this is for this purpose, they say success might come, but it is not guaranteed. Because why it is not guaranteed? Because it also means there are a lot of things into play. It is not just the action. When you do the action, you will have to do it in the prescribed manner without any single change in the structure, format, in the kind of prerequisites that you have to follow. Everything you have to follow to the dot. And your mind should be in that state for that yagam to work. So it is not in our hands totally. And we may not be able to do it. So having 100% conformance to all the things that are mentioned in the Vedas for those yagams is very close to impossible. So therefore the success is not guaranteed. But sometimes people who are doing with less Shraddha, sometimes we may think that they are doing with less Shraddha, but then still they are able to get it. That is because of some of the punyas that are working in their favor. So it is a very, I would say it is a system, well meant out system, but we are not aware of what is going in the background. And our experience tells us. Okay. So it is not that it is not available for people's experience, it is available for people's experience where certain things work, certain things don't work. Certain times it works, certain times it doesn't work. So karma, when I do it as karma, success is not guaranteed. I can see failure. Whereas when I do karma yoga, my karma yoga, for me, the outcome that I am looking for is not artha kama. I am not looking to get name, fame, power, position, money thing. I am doing it selflessly, which means I am not looking to get anything, any benefit out of it. Therefore, because I am not looking for any benefit out of it, Karma Yoga will definitely give its phalam. Its phalam is Chitta Shuddhi. Chitta Shuddhi will be guaranteed. Even if the outcome, even if the food doesn't come out well in the kitchen, because I have done it in a selfless manner, I didn't want to show off that I am doing it for somebody else, and as in selfless means really not my own people. Selfless means it's beyond. I am doing it not for me or my family or something. It is, I am doing it for others who are not related to me. Or if I am doing it for the sake of Ishvara. Similarly, when I am actually doing anything for a temple, I don't want to do it for sake of getting some name, fame, power, position. I don't want people to recognize me. If I am doing for that purpose, where I am doing it in a selfless manner, then it will definitely result in Chitta Shuddhi. This assurance is given by Bhagavan Krishna in Gita. Bhagavad Gita, he explains Karma Yoga in detail and he assures them that do not worry, you will get your result. So this is the first difference between Karma and Karma Yoga. The second difference is Pratyavaya Dosham. Pratyavaya Dosham means in karma, if it is not done according to the ways, standards and steps prescribed by the Vedas. Suppose I am doing an yajna, or I am doing a homa, or I am doing any kind of Vedic ritual, not necessarily fire based ritual. Even if I am doing, say for example, Sandhya Vandana or anything, or a puja, if I am not doing it according to the ways, standards and steps prescribed by the Vedas, then there is a possibility that I get a papa associated with it. It is called as Pratyavaya Dosham. Pratyavaya Dosham. It is just like, every medicine has got some side effects. So it's just like a side effect of that. When I do karma, and if I don't do it according to the standards that has been prescribed, then I could get Pratyavaya Dosham. But if the same karma, if I am doing it as Karma Yoga, then there is, and that Pratyavaya Dosham will have an associated papa. The Pratyavaya Dosham means what? It is actually a papa for which I may have to incur some sorrow later on. Whereas if the same karma, if I am doing it as a karma yoga, there is no papa at all. Because there is no kamya artha. I am not doing it for selfish reasons. And therefore, there will be no papa associated with it. Again, this assurance is given by Bhagavan Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. This is the second difference between karma and karma yoga. So, third one is half-baked actions. So, if I do a karma, any half-baked action will not provide any result for me. For example, if I want to dig a well for my house, and I say I am digging, and I cannot say I want to dig half a well. Half a well will not give me any water. It is not possible. It will not give me the desired results. And therefore, even that half that I had spent, that effort that I had put for the half, is all wasted. Because it has not given me the desired results. Whereas in karma yoga, if I want to dig a well, say for example, instead of digging a well for me, I want to dig a pond for the village. And I dig. I am not able to complete it. There is no water for people. But doesn't matter, because I did it selfless manner, for the effort that I had put in, that effort will result in punya for me. It is just like how much, suppose I am hungry, I eat a little bit, to that extent my hunger will be satisfied. In the same manner, if I do it karma yoga, for the effort that I had put in, because it is done in a selfless manner, for that particular effort, I will get punya for that. So, there are three differences between karma and karma yoga. One is failure. There is no failure for karma yoga. Everything is successful, because the outcome that I am looking for is only chitta shuddhi. Second is, in karma, there is no, in karma yoga, there is no pratyavaya dosham. There is no omissions or commissions in karma yoga. Whereas in karma, if there are omissions and commissions, I will get papa. 3, half-baked actions will not give me any result in karma. Whereas if I do it as karma yoga, even half-baked actions are considered to be effective. They will give me to that extent punya for me. Punya as in, this punya is for chitta shuddhi. Okay. So, there is no failure, there are no omissions or commissions, and I will get for whatever effort I had put in. So this is karma yoga. Now, to convert karma into karma yoga, how can I easily convert karma into karma yoga? What is the trick that I have to follow so that I am able to convert all my actions into karma yoga? We will see that. How can I convert my actions into karma yoga? Because we will not be able to stop doing actions at all. Our life is full of actions. So we will see. Number one, it's mainly at the attitude level. I already said to convert it is an attitude level. So what is the attitude that I need to have? The first attitude that I need to have is, first of all, first rule, we do our duty, our swadharma, with the attitude of no likes or dislikes. My duty as a son, as a husband, as a employee, boss, as an employee, as a neighbor, as a friend, as a brother, as a teacher, as a student, whatever is my duty depending on the time, role and place. I do that duty without any likes or dislikes. I don't try to avoid certain duties. I don't try to do certain things only which I like. What is duty? We already saw that. There is a Vishesha Dharma, Samanya Dharma and Vishesha Dharma. Vishesha Dharma is called as Swadharma. We have duties, as I said, husband, wife, son, daughter, father, mother, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, sister, brother, devotee, teacher, student, employee, boss, neighbor, even human being. Duty as a human being, duty as a citizen of this country, duty of everything we will have to follow. In general, our tendency is to whatever duties I like, I would do. Whatever duties that I don't like, I either don't do, or I try to avoid, or I try to postpone, or I try to do it in a half-baked manner. This is generally our tendency. So, to convert karma into karma yoga, we will have to do all our duties in the same manner without any like or dislike. So this is first attitude change that we have to do. Because if without this attitude, a karma does not become karma yoga. And remember, by converting this attitude, I don't need to give a special time for myself to do karma yoga. I don't need to say between 9 and 10 I am going to do karma yoga. After 10 onwards I am going to do karma. I need not have that kind of differentiation. Whatever actions I do, if I look it from my convert it to karma yoga, okay, is this my duty? Then I do it without any likes or dislikes, without any half-baked actions, or without trying to avoid anything. That is the first one. The second attitude that I have to bring out is no expectations. I have to do my duty without any return expectations. Because general tendency is, if I do for something for somebody, I expect something back from them in return. Either immediately or later on. I do it so that when time comes, they might come and help me out later on. So this is the attitude by which we do some of the so-called helpful actions that we do. That is not karma yoga. Karma yoga is about doing the duty. You need not go out of work. You just do your duty, but do it without any expectations. Our culture is such that one person's duty becomes another person's right. One person's right becomes another person's duty, whatever way you say. For example, father and son. The duty of father becomes the right of son when the son is growing up. Then the duty of the son becomes the right of the father after some time. Same thing with husband and wife. Husband's duty is wife's right. Wife's duty is husband's right. Same thing with government and citizen. Government's duty is citizen's right. Citizen's duty is government's right. So one person's duty becomes another person's right. But now our mind is such that I will do it only as much as I can get back from the other person. So I want to do only to people who would be able to give back to me. Otherwise I wouldn't want to do to them. But there are three issues here. Because not these kind of reciprocal arrangement is equal. In the sense, father, son, son's father is not exactly equal. It may not be equal. Similarly, government, citizen, government may not be exactly equal. Take teacher, student for example. a teacher gives much more than to a student giving back to the teacher. So it is never an equal arrangement. A daughter-in-law probably gives much more to a husband's parents than the husband's parents giving back to their daughter-in-law. So there is never not all arrangements are equal. So to expect something back in return to the extent that I have done will not work. Suppose if I find a wallet on the road and I pick it up and I give it to that person. I give it to the person. When I do that, I don't do it thinking that tomorrow when my wallet falls down in this road, he will come and pick it up and give it to me. We will not think that way, because there may not be another opportunity at all for this person to help us out. So in the same manner, every duty arrangement that we have in our lives are not exactly equal. We have to understand that. That's the number one thing. The second thing is, even if there is a reciprocal arrangement in that relation, not every reciprocal arrangement is honored. For example, I may be a good neighbor, but the neighbor may not be nice to me. It is never, we cannot expect an equal reciprocal arrangement. We may be a good citizen. We may be a good friend. The other person may not be a good person. We may be a good employee. The boss may not be good. So that not every reciprocal arrangement is honored. Even if there is no reciprocal arrangement, some people, I may not have any reciprocal arrangement, but I at least expect the other person to show gratitude, is what they say. And the problem is, not everybody shows gratitude. When we do our duty or help, we expect gratitude. Who got that help? But they don't do. So what do we say? We say, what is the point in doing work for this person? After all, he would not give me anything back in return. Neither he will not give back anything in return. He will not even acknowledge what I have done. What is the use? Because our mind tendency is always looking for what I can get out of this situation. What I can get. That is the problem that we have in our mind. So this Karma Yoga is about doing our duty, not expecting anything in return. So first attitude is no likes or dislikes in our duty. The second is not expecting anything back in return. If you are able to convert our actions with those two attitudes, then karma becomes Karma Yoga and a person gets Chitta Shuddhi. If I do something for another person, I get something back in return. For example, I am even a gratitude. For example, I do something for a person, I get something back in return. It is no more Karma Yoga, because it becomes a transaction. I have given something, you have given back in return. My life, if I can have transactions or I can have Karma Yoga. With transactions, I will not have always favorable results. I will always have issues. I might have felt that I have given more, I have received less. Or I might feel I have given more, I have given less and received more. I feel happy. I have got more out of this relation than giving to this relation. So it's always ups and downs there. Whereas in Karma Yoga, I don't have any expectations, as in return expectations. I just do my duty. I am bound to get Chitta Shuddhi. So this is Karma Yoga. There are something more that we can discuss on Karma Yoga in the next class. Any questions so far on this one? What should you do if the people trouble you, even if you are doing Karma Yoga without expecting anything from them? If somebody is troubling us, then we try to avoid those people. If these are people that can be avoided, avoid them. If these are people that we cannot avoid, if it is, for example, within the family, then we actually let them know that it is not helping us. Even if it doesn't work, at the end of the day, there will be something more that we discuss in Karma Yoga. We will see that. Maybe you will get an answer next class. We will see that. Maybe you hold this question for next class. I will try to answer them afterwards. Any other question? Okay. Okay, if there is no more, then we will see in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha. Gobrahmanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. See you next class.
Hari Om.